Hello and welcome to this Fasten at Yarnalong event. Did you ever wonder what designers chat about when they meet? Well, today we get to find out. For this designer conversation, we're lucky to have with us um, Sara from Azariah's Fibre Arts, Taylor from Needle Fox Arts, and BronaghKnits. Well, sorry, from BronaghKnits. So I will invite you each to please briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your design business. Maybe we could start with Sara.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I have been a crochet and knitwear designer since 2005. I done baby clothes and I love doing lace and shawls, but this year I'm looking to move into more garments and I have a sweater planned.
Awesome, thank you. Maybe Taylor now?
I'm Taylor with Needle Fox Arts, and I fell into this because I started just making my own things, my own creations, and a lot of friends were like, "You should write that down because I want to make one." And so far, I've done mostly accessories. I also would very much like to move into garments, and learn more about grading correctly. Uh, but it's just fun, and there are more designs than I can ever write down.
Oh yeah, that's the challenge, right? So many ideas, so little time. And Brona, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Bronagh. I'm Irish, but I live in England. Um, just to confuse everybody, I'm sort of full-time as a designer, and I have been for a number of years, though I still do some freelance writing as well. I work on garments, lace, accessories, socks. I don't do much kids and I don't do much homeware stuff. And I design for a lot of magazines. You all right there?
Yeah.
So I would maybe do 20, 25 magazine designs a year, and then the occasional other idea as well. So, but that's a mixture of, I say, of all sorts of things.
Fantastic. And well, since it's not really often that designers have the opportunity to get together with their peers to discuss their craft, we're opening the floor for them to do so today. So, as a starting point for your conversation, I will ask it's a question that has been suggested by one of the makers in the Fasten of Yarnalong. And she was curious about to know whether designers work in themed collections, unique ideas, or both. So, and since we've noticed that each one of you has a part of your portfolio consisting of collections and theme bundles, and part of it made up of standalone design, we wondered, do you have a preference for one or the other? And if so, what makes you prefer it? And when inspiration strikes, do you know whether it will be a single piece, a collection, or does that come later? And if this is something you decide in advance, what effect does it have on inspiration and on the design process? So I will let you take it away from there.
Mm. For me, because I design a lot for magazines, I'm designing a lot for a theme that's suggested is often my starting point. Although I have other things going on, and sometimes I just have an idea in my head and it works perfectly for that theme, which makes it easier. I do, despite that, notice trends in my work. And when I'm doing that and I get the copyright back, I do bundle things a bit. I was going to grab something here. So at the moment, you'll see amongst my patterns a couple of these hats. This one's Lottie. I think there's two on there at the moment, but I liked doing them so much that there's going to be a third one that I've just finished. And when those go on, then they'll get bundled. You can get a bundle of the three hats that will be kind of more of an ebook, sort of almost one set of instructions that you can mix and match the hats with. So it kind of goes more that way around. I suddenly notice I have a collection rather than I set out to do a collection, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally does.
I think it's similar for me. I'll make one thing like, well, I have a bundle that's all my learn to knit patterns because I started teaching at the yarn store where I work, and realized as I was working and teaching that like you can't even look things up on YouTube if you don't know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Maybe you learned English and you look up how to do a knit stitch and it's continental and it looks completely wrong. And so, you know, a lot of my easy patterns I've gone through and I've highlighted the terms you look up on YouTube, and those are all bundled together so that someone who wants like 3 or 4 starter patterns, just dunk, 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 and away you go, right? And then much like Bronagh was saying, just I'll look down, I'll be like, oh, well, those all work together. Those are a set of um I don't know. I feel like there's not a lot of really specific pre-planning because an idea will get in my brain and then I have to make it. And we just go with that.
Yeah, those pesky ones that you just have to make.
Yes.
Those ones are often the best.
Yes.
My collections are mostly accidental as well. I've tried designing for magazines and fitting into their themes, and I've submitted quite a few things, and only one would fit the theme well enough to be accepted. The collection that I like the most that I don't have with me at the moment is my color drip set, and it's a hat and a cowl and mitts, and it's crocheted, and the colors kind of fade into each other. And that one was just so much fun to do. It started out as mitts, and I enjoyed changing the colors so much. I'm like, I didn't want a whole bunch of mitts, but I didn't want to stop. So I'm like, maybe this could be a hat and a cowl too. And then I have a collection of shawls, and they're the seasons. You know, that just made sense to have one for each of the 4 seasons. But I really like one-offs. Just, oh, that looks fun. Let's try this and walk it down the road and see how far it's going to go.
Yeah, so you enjoy exploring different avenues, different ideas all the time, and not but sometimes one idea sticks and you're not done with it yet after one pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Or it circles back. So I designed my dicotyledon mitts, which I don't have right here. And they have just a little bit of dip stitches on the back of the hand. And I first designed them to use a little bit of yarn left over to match a hat I made just for me. Right. And then people were like, I want to make those. And I was like, okay, good luck. And I released the pattern and I was teaching the pattern and I realized I was teaching it with the yarn I originally used, which was Arroyo, Malabrigo Arroyo. And I got done with my sample set of mitts for the class and I was like, hey, there's enough left in this skein to make a hat. Can I make, like, how cool that you can buy one skein of Arroyo and get mitts and hat out of it, especially with Malabrigo, since their colorways are so whimsical.
Yeah.
And those actually were designed like several years apart.
Actually, my Bridget set's the same, but the other way around, in that I made the mitts and then looked at the amount, well, I could probably squeeze a beanie out of this, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So sometimes it's the yarn that provides inspiration for a set.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Any other sources of inspiration that sends you either in directions that you hadn't seen coming or whatever? Just
So I like playing with construction. I'm just looking for an example. I don't have a curved shawl here. I tend to do like segmented curved shawls a lot. But for wraps, I've discovered I really like working on the bias. This guy. So where you start with just try to find a corner here, a cast on one corner and have fun getting that shape. And I just love the effect that gives. So your lace kind of runs diagonally on your shawl and so on. And it's just such a nice kind of feel to play with that and play with pattern going in different directions that I find myself coming back to that. And I'll see a sort of lace pattern and think, oh, that might work on the bias, and then want to go and play with it. So yeah, and there's always a couple of sort of scribbled notes about when I get time, I'd like to play with that again, you know?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the construction is starting point for an idea,
Yeah.
and then you might, since you like that way of constructing in it that much, you may end up with a small collection
Yeah.
of pieces.
Let's start building up.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like, themes like working out from a provisional cast on outwards and things like that. So you start to find trends within your own work, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, I really like changing directions of things. Like we, assume that a cowl is going to be a cast on circle and you're going to go up from there. And I just always wonder, like, what if I went a different direction? Or like, this hat, this is from my collection of Viviani,
Oh,
where you knit on the bias flat,
yeah.
the body of the hat, so the braid goes at the 45-degree angle. And that was so fun. I was like, well, I could make that a hat. And then I was adding the brim. And I was like, well, but I could also make it into a cloche if I changed the brim. And then it had to be a cowl. And now I'm working on a scarf. Because I just really like to think at in different angles. It just that part of knitting fascinates me.
There are things you can do, like start with a Mobius cowl, but do a knit on edge. So
right.
it sort of changes direction halfway through, which looks, to be honest, when you're knitting it, looks the maddest thing possible because it's just like, wait a minute, it's kind of doing all of this, and then you get to the end and it sort of opens out and goes, I don't have a cowl.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Sarah? Noticing any trends in what you make, even throughout, the single pieces that you have in your portfolio?
I like to find the simplest way to do something. I don't necessarily want to try and invent the wheel, but I really want to be there for the beginning stitchers and not have things so far out of reach for them. So my patterns include a lot of pictures, and then there will be blog posts because I can't get all the pictures in. And then after my daughter started knitting, and she's half deaf, so videos are hard for her. So everything's closed captioned, and I've got the swatch in there. And I really like having the stuff for the beginners available in what I'm doing.
And I bet that doesn't necessarily mean plain designs.
No,
simple and easy doesn't have to be plain.
Right. And so I did do a sweater this year, but it was a kid sweater. I'm like, we're gonna go small. And it's a simple stitch, it's just seat stitch. But when you're increasing on a raglan going down, that was not near as simple to grade as I expected it to be. And it was my first grading project. Yeah, I got there, and it's in like 5 different sizes now, but just because it looks simple doesn't mean it actually is.
Yeah, making things easy for makers might be a huge challenge for designers.
Exactly. Because we got to get it into the right words so they can understand it. And I think it's more challenging as a crocheter to do that too, because all the stitches are available as a crocheter. on the row to go back into or to choose. And then we've got front loops and back loops and posts involved. So your wording's got to be good. Thankfully, I have my mom to look at things and go, nope, that's not what it is. And I'm like, okay, we'll try again.
Yeah, I think it was I was talking to Woolly Wormhead recently, and she and I were both, it just happened at the same time, we were both going, I love the outcome of this design, but why did I ever do it? Because I'm trying to write it in X amount of sizes now, and I'm slowly losing my mind. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think people always realize that bit of, yeah, the first sample is great, but now you need to write it down, and you need to write it down in a number of sizes, and
Mhm.
just how painful that can be.
Yeah.
Yes.
That has been true for you too, Taylor.
It's one of the reasons I don't have a lot, like most of my garment patterns are just simmering while I look for maybe an in-person grading class, because I think I just need to sit in an education space instead of trying to fight with it myself. So 2026 goals.
Nice.
That's a great goal. Yeah. So looking for support as designers, I bet support is something that you find important as well. What do you feel like you need support with?
I'm lucky I get to work with some very good tech editors because of the way I work. And I would always say having access to good tech editors makes such a difference. Just to somebody to come back and go, did you mean this or did you mean that? It's not just adding up the numbers. It's, you know, there was just an example this week where in a sock, I pulled something out for the second size. And she came back and she said, I don't see why you've done that. And therefore, my wording wasn't clear enough about what they needed to do different for the second size. And that was great because I thought I covered it. And it was like, no, I don't get it at all. So, that really, just having that kind of technically this isn't making sense thing is wonderful.
Yeah, the whole thing about having things be clear in your head, but making sure that it's clear, it gets across clearly to someone else's head.
Yes. And it's so important. You can't do that yourself. I have been an editor for a long time in magazines, and I know that you can't edit your own work. You can do it a certain amount, but you can't do everything because you just won't see it. Oh.
Right. You know too well how your brain works.
Yes.
Yes. And so I'm a tech editor as well. And recently I edited a pattern, and then like 2 months later, I bought the pattern and I was working through it. I didn't find any mistakes, but there were still changes I would have made or suggested. And a pattern's like never done. It's just good enough. And not good enough in a negative way. It's good enough. Just put it out there, share it, because it'll never be done and perfect.
I see Taylor nodding.
Just when I sent out the pattern that Mika won, I looked at it and I was like, oh, I forgot, before I sent out the PDF, I was looking at it in Google Docs. And I was like, oh, I missed that some typo. And so, it got, she has the freshly updated, never before seen version with the corrected text.
Neat. As I'm listening to you, I do work a bit in the book industry with novelists and everything, and I see so many similarities. A book is never done as well. A writer has so many things that are clear in their mind that don't come across, when I act as a beta reader or something. So yeah, creative acts. And designing is a very, very creative act. Writing the pattern is a different creative act. So you need to have several sets of different skills, actually, as designers.
Yeah, it's a thing about is you're actually seeing numbers in 3D to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's actually quite a strange skill when you think about it.
True. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Being
Yeah.
able to knit and crochet in your head visually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else do the thing of waking up at 3 in the morning and have solved the decrease?
Yes.
Yes.
Last week.
It's such a strange thing that suddenly it's like, I know how to grade that. I know how that decrease works. And it's like, and it's 3 in the morning. Where can I make a note of this?
Right.
Yeah, it's a really strange thing.
No, mine is usually when I'm like in the middle of cooking something tricky, and like my hands are covered in dough or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Oh.
oh, I've got that. Okay. But it makes sense. I mean, because our brains keep thinking about things. Like, this is
Yeah.
something I tell my students when we're doing a new technique. I'm like, when you're done in class, put it down, walk away, go do something else. Let your brain keep thinking about it without you thinking about it. And when you pick it back up, it will make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they look at me like I'm crazy, but usually they come back and say, you were right. I got that the next morning. And I was like,
It worked. Good.
Yeah, I do that. I suggest that I have suggested that grown-up adults go out in the courtyard behind where I teach and do star jumps or something because they
mm-hmm.
get so frustrated. And they don't do that, but they will go and do a walk or have a bit of chocolate or something. And then they go, after about 10 minutes, they go, oh, right, yes. It's like, yeah, just put it down. Go use another bit of your body. And it's like, it's interesting. You need to you need to switch it off sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like more with teaching, less with designing, but I've learned so much about neurology teaching knitting, which has been fascinating as
Right.
this adventure continues.
Have you found that teaching or tech editing or whatever has informed your designing? Has that changed the way you come at it or you get started on a new design?
I have a lot of students who are brain injury survivors and who are knitting because their doctor told them to, because there's like a lot of neurology that we talk about because it's bilateral and it crosses the center line of the brain and the body, because it's rhythmic. All these things really help build brain health. Um, but sitting with someone who was an amazing knitter and had a stroke and is now trying to reclaim their brain, and it helps me really think about the clarity with which I'm writing, right? Like,
Yeah.
could I explain this to this person in a way that they could comprehend it? That's been hugely humbling and interesting and helpful, um, you know, because I want them to succeed, whoever they are.
I'm
Yeah,
just
so
adding
having one
something to the
specific person
chat.
in mind. Yeah.
It's two doctors who are twin brothers in the UK who've done a video this week. One of them knitted a scarf, and they're actually talking about the health benefits of knitting. So I'm just knitting it, popping it in the chat. In fact, the link in
Yes,
the chat here, hopefully,
please.
if it works. There we go. I should reply and say that, didn't I? Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Because I'm a left-handed knitter that teaches everybody, and I can knit right-handed now. That's a whole other story. And when I write in my tutorials, I have changed, instead of picking the needle from, the left needle, picking the stitch from the left needle, it's the giving needle and the receiving needle now. instead of
Mm.
left needle and right needle, so that I don't have to repeat myself more. And then I know that it's clear for those who are
Good one. Yeah.
watching it or reading it.
Clear and inclusive. No
Yeah,
one feels like they have to translate, what you've written because it was not written for them.
right.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I found is yarn overs. And people used to get people can get all sorts of tangles about how do you turn the yarn. And I now do it by you to tell people that when you get a yarn over, you're knitting or purling a pretend stitch. So
Um,
you make the stitch, you just make the neck, you make the stitch, and then but you put your needle through air and go around your needle like you normally would, and then move your yarn to make your next stitch. And it gets over that bit of, but am I going between a knit and a purl? Am I going, whatever way?
Yeah,
If you just make a pretend it's just a stitch in the air, somehow it kind of solves that problem. And especially if you've got a class where some people are what I'd call right-handed knitters and some people are left-handed knitters in terms of English and continental, depending. It's easier because it doesn't matter which hand they're holding their yarn in. They're
right.
yeah,
doing what's natural to them. It took a long time to find a way of doing that people weren't getting themselves all confused, because it's just one of those things that really worries people.
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a student who's been challenged by yarn over the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to try that with her tomorrow.
Yeah, it might work for her too.
I hope.
Yes.
Other things haven't, so we'll just keep trying.
Well, that's it. I think that's maybe the thing that teaching does is there's more than one way to explain things.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think one thing I try to do in my patterns is leave them a little bit open-ended, because I've worked with so many people who are like, the pattern says do this, but I don't like that. And I'm like, then don't do it. Like,
Yeah,
we've been
you
knitting
get
for
that a
hundreds
lot.
and hundreds of years. Change it. Who cares?
Yes, you get that a lot in sock patterns where they'll say, and now use the third needle and use the fourth needle, or
Right.
you must choose magic loop, or you must. I'm just like, no, use DPN to magic loop, whatever suits you. Swap
Yeah.
between them if that works for you. Just
If you like the fabric you're making and your hands and your brain and your body are comfortable, then you're probably doing it correctly.
yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
That sounds like the a good place to wrap things up, because that's such a definitive truth.
Yes.
And well, that was a really interesting conversation, and I bet you could keep going for a while, but that's all the time we had today. So thank you so much for playing along with us with that new format of a designer conversation. It was great to get to know you all better through the conversation you've had. Um, and thank you for your time and generosity. And we hope everyone enjoyed today's designer video conversation. Please do check out our Fast Enough Yarnalong schedule for more events and activities, because the event is not over yet. So many, many thanks to Sara from Azariah's Fibre Arts, Bronagh from BronaghKnits, and Taylor from Needlefox Arts. Thanks a lot, and see you in the next event.